Let's start. Let's call this meeting to order at 6:18 p.m. Okay, we got Elena is present, Shane is present, and public participation. Did we get anything, Ann?
No, we have no one on and no one had called us.
Getting okay, right. Three, stormwater bylaw presentation, the town meeting article. Does anyone want to start?
Actually, if you
You
don't
want to
mind,
switch it around?
yeah, the only reason being is so what we planned on doing is a couple of things we wanted to talk about, but some warrant articles that'll be coming up at town meeting, we were going to run by you folks. The stormwater one being one of them. This board obviously has a role in, some of how people get permitted and things for that. So I think the talking points that Bill and I just threw together so we didn't lose our place, dropped in the stormwater stuff last. So if nobody minds going out of order, I'll just kind of share what we
No,
tossed together so we don't lose our train of thought, and then we'll end on, the stormwater things if that's okay.
sure. Floor is yours. Do you want to just go down to the warrant articles, or what do you want to start with?
Yeah, I'll actually share my screen. Hold on one second.
You should be able to too.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
So everybody could see the bandstand basically.
Mm-hmm.
Ken,
Okay. So what we came up with this year, 12 proposed warrant articles for different odds and ends. Um, some construction things, trash, all the normal stuff that we see all the time. So we're gonna run through that really quickly with you folks and answer any questions that you may or may not have on it. So, and feel free to interrupt, stop, if you get a question or anything like that as we're going through it. So like I mentioned, there's 12. Everybody's favorite that comes up annually, although it has been tossed into the consent agenda the last few years. We always include this eminent domain article. Um, Short and sweet, really, it's an insurance policy. If something pops up, it allows the town council to take or accept easements and conveyances and things like that for, some of the underground stuff that, we may be doing through the year. We don't use it a heck of a lot, but it's one of those in there, and if you have to break glass in case of emergency and utilize it, we've already, approved it at town meeting, so we're authorized to go there. One of the big ones that we're going to be talking about quite a bit this year, trash, refuse, recycling, yard waste. So FY27 we will enter into the last year. We are under contract with Republic for refuse collection and recycling collection. The disposal piece is handled differently by a different vendor, and that contract goes out sometime to about 2035. Difference, so if you remember last year in 26, we actually level funded this article from 25. This year, we did some contractual changes. We weren't able to, be that good. But the overall increase that, we're presenting in this budget in front of you is about 3.2%. The total requests, so this is for trash collection weekly, bi-weekly recycling, yard waste, so all the operation at the Nahant Street pit, white goods, all the other stuff that we got going on. The total request for this annual article this year is 2,535,526. And really what's in this? Contractual increases, that we're already obligated to. And then one thing that did help us keep the number and shed it less than 4%. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we used to run with 5% as a contingency for unexpecteds on the disposal end. COVID happened, drove everybody home, and tonnage kind of spiked a little bit. So not knowing how that was going to work, that line item was changed to carrying 7.5% as a contingency for disposal. We've seen enough now where tendencies are pretty automatic and pretty consistent. And, we feel like we've seen what the worst could be and what the best could be. And that line we're actually proposing to lower to 5% this year. So you'll see a reduction in that. And that is right here in subsection 6. The contingency is 5% of item 3, which is our disposal cost. One thing to note, and I know it's another agenda item too, once we get through town meeting and, kind of like this task in front of us acutely, and myself, the staff here, you folks, we're going to have to finalize and put together an RFP that we hope to have advertised sometime around the first of the fiscal year. When that's out, the goal, the timeline, I guess, would be to make a decision sometime in the fall, in enough time where it's in advance of town meeting. Should there be, a town meeting action that's needed there, and what I'm referring to there is in the event that the town chooses to run with automated recycling collection. There's a lead time to get those barrels, so we're going to have to acquire those. Acquiring those at the November town meeting will give us enough time, hopefully, to land them and deliver them before whatever the new contract may look like. Feedback that Ann and I have got, just asking questions every time we get the chance to. It does not sound like any of the vendors that will be seriously interested in this will propose to collect recycling the way that we do it now manually. So it'll be interesting to see what they have for feedback. But one of the things that we'll hopefully task you folks with, and Ann can tap into the ESC and a whole bunch of different places, is if you remember, we kind of take the approach of throwing the kitchen sink at this and asking for proposals on anything creative or out of the box or different, that we can get, and seeing what the vendors can come up with. Some things that materialized out of that approach is cardboard recycling, black earth, and different things like that. So we'll throw a ton at the vendors or whoever receives the RFP and proposes on it, and see what happens from there. But overall, here's what this budget looks like for the year. And a little bit more work coming up ahead of time.
Quick question, if I may, too. So I heard you mention kind of the, barrels and whatnot. So if we get a new contractor, do we need new barrels? Am I hearing that correctly or no?
So you want for we want for trash, right? We're set up to be
Right.
automated. But
Gotcha. You're talking recycling. Okay.
yes, so the preference is, from a lot of the big players in this who probably be the most competitive, I'll say. I mean, I don't know who you're going to get for proposals, but their business model wants to be automated anyway. For insurance purposes and things like that, folks hanging off the back of the vehicles, must save them, a lot of injuries, insurance expenses and things like that. They have one driver on the vehicle instead of somewhere between 2 and 4. So, everybody seems to have adopted that model and is rolling with it. And the feedback we've gotten to this point is you're probably not going to get anybody to propose anything any differently. So that's one of the things that we'll have to take into consideration with this. And there's a slew of options, whether it's most advantageous should, we go down that route. Does the town require the barrels? Does it become part of the contract? Is there some deal, for lack of a better term, or offset that can be provided by, some of these global companies' purchasing power to get that? That's some of the blocking and tackling we have to work out of this through the RFP process. So it'll be
No, it makes sense.
interesting back and forth. And I would expect on the recycling thing a spirited debate on barrel size, if that's on the tables, whether or not, we
Yeah.
always talk about weekly versus bi-weekly, but I think one of the things that we'll end up talking about too is if we're going down that path, there'll be a decent discussion about 64 gallon versus 94 gallon and different things like that. So it'll all be good.
And I guess just while we're on that too, with the current agreement, these barrels, does the town own these, or does the Republic own these barrels?
No, that's a good question. So what is out there now the town owns?
Okay,
So
great.
we purchased those in 2014 or 13, whenever we went into automated trash collection. And then, throughout the years, because there's wear and tear to them, we either fix them or, replace them as needed and kind of cycle them out. You essentially have two. You'd have the possibility with this is that you'd have, your one blue trash toter, and then there'd be another color out there for recycling. But same thing, different end point.
That
And
makes sense. Thank you.
Joe, Joe, I might be getting ahead of myself too, but to kind of like just elaborate, I want to touch on it is you know, obviously I think you touched on like other ways we could maybe help fund or take some of that recycling out of the line. Like for instance, you have the cardboard dumpster at the town hall, which I think is fantastic. I use it all the time. I think it's convenient and it's right there, and you guys have cameras there. It's not like you have to worry about someone, dumping trash or something there. I think it's, you know, I don't know if that's in the plans to make it permanent or, a possibility, but that's just one that kind of sticks out to me. Like that would certainly help keep cardboard out of the trash barrels if we had something like that that people could continuously use, not just for the Christmas time, so to say.
Absolutely. The only hang up that happens here sometimes at town hall is parking is tight. But that has once Nahant Street closes, that has existed throughout this whole winter, and we saw a heck of a winter show up mid-January, till early last week. Um, it hasn't been too bad, but anything that's creative, we certainly won't leave any stones unturned. Anne ran this up the other day, but I was almost shocked as someone that's kind of even keeled. I'm not too high, I'm not too low. That's just kind of who I am. But over 44,000 pounds of cardboard has gone through that thing in being able to offset, some of what we're doing. And then the metal collection on top of that, um, FY or 2025 was the best year we've ever had. We diverted almost 85,000 pounds of metal from the
Nice.
incinerator. So,
That's nice.
it doesn't add up, to massive, massive, massive quantities of money, but every ton that does not end up getting brought to the incinerator is $100, $102 less, that disposal cost is. So that's been incredible. So if there's anything else like that, um, we would be foolish. It'd be malpractice not to try to implement that and make that happen. So
Great.
as long as the end markets can support it, we're open to everything. So
Awesome.
hopefully the respondents are too.
Oh, I've just got one comment on the bin size that you mentioned. So I
Yeah,
think
a
from
topic I'm sure you've been through quite a bit.
well, two things on it. One, we did a survey when we were trying to decide between weekly and biweekly recycling. And I will tell you, the biweekly recycling in Melrose would have been a $500,000 a year savings, but Melrose already had weekly recycling, and there was like more than 75% of the community who responded wanted to keep weekly recycling, even if it meant paying an extra $60 a year or whatever it was. So and then we also asked about bin sizes. And even with bi-weekly recycling, a lot of people preferred the 64 gallon over the 96 gallon. And that survey that we did, it was really short. It was just like a Google form or a Survey Monkey, something simple that I had set up. And I think that was the most well answered, like percentage wise, survey that we've ever had. We got over 1,000 people who responded, and it was really easy to tell kind of, there were clear majorities of what people wanted. And I think people really liked having the opportunity to weigh in. So I would recommend, first of all, where we've never had weekly recycling, I would probably not even utter the words weekly recycling unless you want to be prepared to spend that extra $500,000, which I don't think we should. I think it's not really great for the environment. I personally, like, we recycle a ton and we don't recycle any less because it comes every other week. And maybe you end up with like a choice of bin sizes because the 96 gallons are really enormous for like elderly people and people who don't have big, driveways or whatever to keep them in.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things, at least of the two RFPs I've been through the last two times in my tenure here, we always ask the proposers to, provide what's the num, your proposal for weekly collection versus bi-weekly collection. Then we've always asked to, based on their professional opinion, what is the participation rate? How does that change? Um, and historically, we've always got answers somewhere between 3 and 10%. So to your point, that's where some of the balancing had come in. Do you spend $500,000 extra annually for a 5 or 6% increase on, what your recycling is? I don't know.
Yeah, and
I
at the
think
end of
that
the
that's a
day,
community decision ultimately. But yeah, you're totally right. There's a lot of balancing that will end up happening as we go through the end of the spring and early summer for sure.
yeah, we never did any sort of like carbon footprint analysis, but I would imagine that driving all the routes in the city an extra time, 26 extra times over the course of the year probably is worse for the environment than that 3 to whatever percent increase in recycling that you get from that extra week. And especially where the community's not used to having weekly anyway. Like, it's not like people have to adjust their habits to biweekly. We're already in that habit, so I would just stick with biweekly.
Yeah. And the other thing that we'll probably be spending a lot of time on too, not to get off topic, but because we're here, um, we would also anticipate for the first time. So recycling right now in Wakefield is lump sum. So it's whatever the number is for collection, processing, disposal, end to end. At this point in time, when we go back out, we'll see that change a little bit where, the proposers will look to implement some sort of a processing cost to that. So what exactly that is to be determined. I have my own personal opinions on it, especially this summer, seeing a little bit more of the nuts and bolts as to how those things go on. But that'll be something that we'll seriously have to consider too, because that'll be a change that we're not yet experiencing that, will ultimately drive up costs, if that becomes the case. So I'm anticipating lots of robust discussions on that for sure.
Yeah, one other thing that I found, not specific to Melrose, but just specific to Massachusetts, is that all the PR about recycling not actually getting recycled really did a lot of harm to our local recycling market because most of what gets recycled in Massachusetts actually gets recycled. But the national news stories a few years ago about stuff getting shipped over to China and just ending up in the trash. Really, like I know a lot of people who are very environmental minded who are like, I don't recycle a lot of stuff anymore because it's not getting recycled anyway, which is just not the case here. So that's kind of an uphill battle to fight to, do some PR to reconvince people that recycling is actually worth it.
Yeah, and then like the other thing I'm personally interested in is how it'd be interesting to see how people formally propose, evaluating the difference in what the material makeup of, let's say, Wakefield's recycling versus the next person in line, front or back. How do they differentiate that? To what level is that subjective? Is there any metric behind it that you can go back to and kind of work your way through? Is it just somebody standing there that has a subjective opinion? I'd be interested to see that because I can foreshadow myself having a lot of questions about that and being very speculative, but we'll
Yeah,
keep.
and it seems like the companies have mostly gone toward like wanting for the communities to pay some sort of commodity pricing by percent of cardboard and glass and whatever. And yeah, it's all based on like some sort of audit at whatever frequency of what your recycling makeup is. And um, there's definitely the opportunity, like the risk of, your recycling has a different makeup than other communities, and you end up paying the wrong percentages or things that don't accurately reflect what you're actually delivering or your contamination rate or whatever. So that's definitely for sure something to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
That's a good
it's
point.
interesting for sure.
I would assume too that, us being Massachusetts and being, the forefront environmentally friendly too, I would assume that like our laws or legislation is pretty strict of like where our recycling goes compared to some other states that are kind of a free for all, for lack of better words, I would assume. So maybe we could pull some of that legislation or the wording, when we're talking about this or, pointing out how strict our recycling really is here and where it is going. It's a good point, Alina.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
really
and I concur as well. we're proud to say we're a family of four, and I'm happy to say we have one bag of trash a week.
Oh, there you
Like that's
go.
it. People
Us too.
always look at us like, what? No, we have one bag of trash, like heavy, heavy recyclers, and that's good for the town. It's good for the environment, right? I mean, it's just it's good. Yeah. So any rate.
Win-win. Now, circle up on this one. So versus last year, this article, the increase requested is 78,568, or 3.2% year over year. More to follow.
Joe, should that say 7/1/26 is the start of the final trash year?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. I just wanted to be sure that I was
No,
understanding the timing.
I must have mixed up when it ended.
Right.
When
When
it's
it ends and when it's, yeah.
6/30/27 is technically the end, or whatever the last full
Yeah.
week of June is there.
Okay.
Next up, something we've talked about quite a few times. So inflow and infiltration. So the MWRA is so gracious enough to provide really the best deal in this world that you can get. Borrowing authorizations that the 75%, 25% grant loan, where, in this case, we're going to be able to accomplish a little over $1.5 million worth of sewer work, and only need to pay back $390,000 for it, interest-free over 10 years. What this really accomplishes, not to beat a dead horse on this, but anyways that water sneaks its way into our system that ultimately carries its way out to where it's metered and we end up paying for it to treat it. This is our ability to, line these pipes and stop that, but also, improve, some things structurally that doesn't require a dig and fix. So it's a fantastic program. Phase 16 is the latest phase of grant loans for this. So we're requesting authorization for that, and when we wrap up some of the things that we have going on now, we will just continue on doing what we do. Kind of on the same note, so we've talked about, I know you've probably heard it, service line inventories in relation to the lead and copper rule changes, and what that did to distribution systems. So for Shane and probably Chris, what ended up happening in 2024, we had to have a baseline inventory of every water service that connects out into our system, and submit that. And then from that point on, we have to finalize that to something that's a baseline. So out of the 8,200 connections we have in town, we need to know the material makeup of both the street side and the private side across the board. What this article is asking for with this $1 million is we have identified completely 7,101 service lines. So we have about 1,100 left to do. And we need that done before November of 2027. We're averaging somewhere between 12 and 20 a day, 2 days a week. But as Murphy's Law would have it, we could be on that pace and paced out fantastically to be finished and where we need to be. And then something else could pull us in another direction. So at the expense of creating a fire drill that we're not prepared for, we're asking for authorization for this borrowing for two pieces. One, should we need to bring somebody in to help us do the investigations so we can get that baseline inventory completed in time for the deadline that was issued to us, that we could do that and supplement our own staff. And then two, from that 2027 period, so at that point, we have to have a plan to replace anything that's non-compliant, whether it be lead or a lot of galvanized iron. So the other piece to this would be, depending on what the order of magnitude is when we get to the end of this and what we have that's required replacement, these funds we would be able to use to tap into that and get going to work our way through that. We've been very aggressive with this in the past. I know my predecessor in 2015 or 16, when the regs last changed, they went through everything on paper that they had, and anything that said lead, the DPW actually knocked on the door and worked with the residents to replace in-house. So as of right now, we don't have any services in town that we are aware of that are lead. We have a few, I believe 38 of them that we know are iron on the private side and have been identified. depending on what that number jumps to, as we get through these last 1,000 investigations, will dictate, how we approach that. If the number is relatively small, we could do it in-house. We could put out a contract. There's options to, offer some sort of incentivized programs and things like that. But really with this, what we're looking to do is phase one, get the inventory completely finished. And then phase two, make sure that we have ourselves squared away that when it comes time to, enter that replacement phase, we're ready to go and we can hit the ground running because there's another timeline related to that. And with these things, I don't want to take it personally down to the 11th hour. I'd like to be done early. It's kind of the goal with this one here. So I know that was a lot, but we can think of this request. Will we need the $1 million? No, hopefully not. Hopefully we don't need any of it. But in the event that we find the situation changes, at least we're adaptable in that regard so that we don't get into some sort of non-compliant issue and we get a little bit of hot water.
So, Joe, I know the MWRA now has a 25% grant program, but does Wakefield not qualify for it because we don't have enough services that we still think might be lead?
So I talked to David about that. David is the gentleman that runs this at MWRA. And he told me we do. One of the things that we'll have to do when our replacement plan's done to get in to the 25% grant one, the town has to fund the complete replacement. One of the issues with that is the way that the regulations are written, Shane and Chris, the cities and towns now, they're technically required to make you compliant on your private property. As you can imagine, there's some issues with, do we have a right to be there? Where exactly trespassing, all the legal issues there, it's being litigated and things like that now. We do qualify for that, Elena. Depending on what our replacement plan looks like and how many we have to do, we can either use that, or if not, he had told me that the investigation piece would function just like some of the other local assistance where you'd get a 10-year interest-free, loan to do all that stuff. So depending on if we only had 39 of them, I would imagine that we could come up with a scenario we could probably be pretty quick and pretty independent. But if we end up having 150 that need to be addressed, I could certainly see leveraging that because the deal and the payback is too good to pass up.
I just want to say too that Wakefield is way ahead of the game on I mean, I remember even back in I don't know when it was 2016, 17, I saw a table of all the MWA communities and Wakefield was listing 4 lead services, whereas most communities had hundreds.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive, and I think we're in a really advantageous position compared to most of the other communities in the area, and it's great.
Absolutely. So hopefully the luck continues in that one. Next up, so a lot of talk resonating from the Capital Planning Committee and different other places, the Permanent Building Committee. Shane, this is something you've heard now probably talked about, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in the last month. So the request for $150,000 to do a building space need and a capital needs assessment. What are we trying to do with this? So, the town would benefit, and both Bill and I are in agreement with this. The new town administrator, Casey, is too. The town could benefit from a study, having objective eyes come in and see how we utilize our space, and identify some of the different threats or opportunities related to that space to start making decisions. And, some of the things that we're looking for is to be able to optimize how your space is used, the rental opportunities that could offset some of the costs in the future that, maybe a small shift in the way that, we operate could be able to do. And then, some of the other big things there too is, looking at, how departments are staffed, how the staff are structured, where their office is located, identifying, the space analysis, how much space you need, how should it be used, organizational efficiencies, considering the future and how communities may be growing. So there's a little bit of a plan should there be expansion or, shrinking in different areas like that. And then while we're looking at how we utilize our space, because we're going to be going through all of our space, it'd be good to capture everything that we have from a capital perspective too, so that when this is all boiled down into some sort of a decision-making matrix, that, that can be part of the conversation. So do you really want to put a bunch of money into something that's structurally deficient, or has, capital needs that, aren't going to be worth the investment versus something where the return is higher? So things like that. So Bill and I kind of became the de facto faces of it. I would imagine when this gets to town meeting, it would probably be a combination of one of the two of us, if not both, and Administrator Casey. But this is really a request for a tool that will shape a whole bunch of different programs as we move forward related to building space and capital planning, and all those other things. So we referenced it here tonight. We're the de facto sponsors of it, but something that, will be coming up and hopefully be debated on the floor of town meeting. I don't know. Do you have anything that I missed in that, Bill? That
No, I
try to
think
keep
that
it
part of
10,000 feet.
yeah, it also came from the council as well. So when we started out looking at options for the herd, which seems to be like on a cyclical cycle, it's like every 2 or 3 years they want to start looking back at that again. So that kind of started driving this too, and to say let's maybe pump the brakes, as folks were looking at kind of I wouldn't say forcing, but kind of rushing to dispose of the building, where there may be a value to us, and we don't even know if there is. So I think that's kind of where it started. And then, I know Administrator Casey did something similar in North Andover before she came. So, it just kind of made sense as we were in that conversation to maybe pump the brakes on the herd. Let's evaluate that in the context of all of the town's needs, before we make that decision. So,
Yeah, and then so the mechanics of this, how this will actually be done, has not been determined yet. What I would imagine is there'd be some sort of a committee that's either appointed, or charged to do this or be involved with it, so that everybody has a voice, everybody has the chance to advocate for themselves, someone else. I'm sure that there'll be some element of public input to it, obviously as well, because these buildings are shared by, everybody, whether you work here or you do business here. So to be determined on that, but that's something that will probably be taken up at the council level, and then charged to whoever. Is it the capital planning committee? Is it the permanent building committee? Is it a combination of both? We will find out. All right, now on to some of the fun stuff. So,
flooding, yes. So, so our sixth item is a $1 million bonding request for drainage improvements at Emerson and Cedar. We've done some water main work already in Cedar, and we have a award for a water main replacement in Emerson now. So prior to us paving, we wanted to start looking at the drainage. We've had some history of flooding out here. You can see some photos that we took. That's actually since I've been here. But even prior to my arrival, we did a 2016 townwide drainage study, which identified this area as a need for improvement. Essentially, our system is undersized, and it's also collapsing in several sections. So essentially, what we're trying to do is collect the drainage, up in Cedar Street, and then pipe it into Emerson, rather than have it bypass Cedar as it does most of the time, and just kind of flow down to Emerson and cause what you're seeing in the photos. So from here, it goes under the train track. So if you look to the kind of the top of your screen, up even further, Joe, right there. Yep. So that goes underneath the train tracks, and then through Betts Field and discharges to the lake. So upsizing this and getting it to move actually doesn't really cause much of an issue from a capacity standpoint or downstream impacts. We have a big lake that will be able to meter that flow. So makes a lot of sense for us. So we've gone after a couple of grant opportunities prior to coming to this request, and we've been unsuccessful in a couple of grant applications. So we're kind of in the need here because of the timing with our water main project and the condition of the roadway and the number of complaints we get on the condition of the roadway. So here we are.
So Bill, is that $1 million just borrowed, like
Yeah.
bonds? Yeah.
Yep. Bonds. And, we'll bond one big project. And then, if we can get savings, we're hoping we'll be able to get, a better price with us already having awarded a water main job in the same location, with the same contractor, to see if there's a possibility of economy of scale there. So we can even save some money if we save some money, we'd kind of we'd be moving the article so that we can do townwide drainage improvements. That's typically what we did with the last bond. So if there's needs and we can get some savings, we can apply it to other drainage needs within the town.
Great. Looks like
Yeah.
that neighborhood should be very happy to see that happen.
I would assume. Yeah,
No
I would
more
think so.
rowboats.
No
Yeah.
more
Oh,
yeah, the kayaking.
certainly.
Although if they're avid kayakers, they might have a problem.
Most
Yeah.
most importantly too, when the water and drain is done, comes the best part. So
Yeah, they get their nice clean road and new road. They'll be very happy with that
so
too.
these two streets will have new gas. The sewer will already be investigated and lined. The water is all brand new. The drainage, is potentially all brand new. So we redo the roadway. We hope that, aside from maybe the casual hello, we don't have to be back in the neighborhood for quite some time. So they've
Hopefully not while I'm here. It'll be the
yeah,
next person's issue, right? So
agreed.
yeah. Any questions on the drainage?
Oh, sorry,
All right.
jumping around.
You go. So retaining wall repairs, $100,000. We have a couple spots. One, I think that one of our members knows very well, and
I recognize the picture right away. I was like,
yeah, I'm sure
I
you
know that
do.
yard.
Yeah, it's fallen down. So we've had that for a while. We've done some survey out there. It is within the town's right of way based on our survey. So we're going after it to obviously make that repair. There may be a need to even replace the whole wall once we get into it. So we'll figure out that once we get into it. And then Vernon and Finch, kind of similar situation. This has been repaired by the town a couple of times. It's kind of unraveled in different sections as we've gone through. Currently, that's a hole as of the summer of this year, fall this year. We got a sinkhole in the sidewalk. Same idea as what's going on in Pine. So this is a much smaller repair. We're thinking probably in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. Pine Street probably closer to 80, 75 to 80. So that's the game plan for those two.
And Bill, I'm going to put in my plug that I know you've heard me say over and over, but that corner, if that sidewalk can be a compliant width with a compliant ramp when all is said and done, our young neighbor in a wheelchair
Yes.
would very much appreciate the ability to turn that corner without being in the street.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I think we might be limited with right of way, but we'll do what we can. So we have a little bit extra money in there, so that we have sidewalk included. So we'll see what we can do to make it all work. And if there's a need where we can't make it work within the funds, we would look to, I may make a repair and then come back for an easement, or we'll figure out a way to make this all work. If I have to get another easement, I'll go do that.
One question, Bill, too. Just looking at this too. So when you do these repairs or replacements, is it automatic? Like, does a stone wall have to go back, or could you pour a concrete wall in its place and
You
say
could.
for drainage or?
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, typically what we'll do is take a look to see, what's making it fail. That's usually where we'll start. I mean, obviously we'd be putting crushed stone behind this. We'd be putting, the pipe through it so that you don't get the hydrostatic pressure, all that stuff. But, it depends on each wall, to be honest with you. I've done ones where I've replaced stone walls with, with a concrete wall and then veneered it. That might be an option here too. So there's a whole series of what we can do.
Yeah,
Once we
there's
get
some
into
nice
it.
ones out there.
Yeah.
Like
Back.
Ready Rock is one that comes to mind. That's like a block that they pour it and they kind of go together like Legos, and it's
Yeah.
pretty easy to get drainage in them too. I was just curious how they.
Yeah, we look at all of it. I mean, I think the resident obviously there has contacted us too, and depending on what if they're willing to go with the Ready Rock, we've done the Ready Rock walls. We did one on Montrose when we put the sidewalk in, that we pushed back the hill a little bit,
Yeah.
so to get that sidewalk in. So we'll try all of them, and then we've done other ones. Back when Elena and I were working in Concord, I mean, I think it was retaining walls and stone walls were the thing. So we were doing,
And that wall
I was
still
doing a
looks
bunch of
good
those.
too.
Yeah.
That wall that you did too on Montrose still looks good too. A lot of
Yeah.
the times you do something and it
Yeah.
kind of starts crumbling and falling apart too.
Yeah, let's hope that we don't like to have that happen.
No.
Project.
We're gonna add these two to the list that we would not like to revisit.
Yeah.
Career,
In
we
our
don't
careers
have
here,
to.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to echo what Elena said too, if there is a handicapped person that's close by, anything we could do to, make their day a little bit better when they got to go down the sidewalk that's easier for them would be great.
Yeah, we've started pricing that out, and I might be looking at grant opportunities for that. I think I have an opportunity to maybe go with like complete streets opportunity. That's kind of what I was thinking, Elena, for that.
Great.
Because trying to get because there's been a lot of discussion about pedestrian mobility through this area too. So we'd like to try to hit them all, but across the street there's other retaining walls that would be costly. So I think we might have a solution if once we identify our new approach. So the town administrator, myself, and Joe are kind of starting up kind of a new process on how projects come into fruition, kind of the planning and then the buy-in from town council and how all that's going to happen. Kind of get our 5-year project universe and let them start distilling things down. Obviously, you folks will have a big part of that too, but I think it'll be a much more structured approach. We've been a little ad hoc, I think, since I've been here. So kind of get this a little bit more rigid. Projects come in, they get vetted amongst the whole town, not just, let's figure out if we can just, get this one done. So I think that's how projects will be moving forward. And, we're having discussions with a lot of folks, especially this capital cycle, as folks have come with requests. That's kind of been the message that we're going to revisit how we do these. So I think that'll be a positive for us. All right, parking lot construction. So $350,000 for parking lot construction and reconstruction. So we're looking at 3 areas within the funds. So Sullivan Playground, we had some water main work that was done there. It was used as a staging area. It has, it's kind of gravel and kind of a disaster down there. So we're looking at, paving that and making it, ADA compliant, also adding in some stormwater treatment and that type of thing down there. And then the other piece is part of our rail to trail project. So as we were able to install the first section of the rail to trail with the transmission line that came through in Eversource and National Grid, we've gone through and been successful already with Mass Trails and getting a grant to construct the trailheads to do that. And speaking with them, we typically stay on budget and we design them and have them ready to go, so they like working with us. So I approached them about advancing our a parking lot expansion that was part of that overall TIP project, kind of ahead of the TIP project, much like we did the trail that's already there. So this is we put in a grant for about $500,000. There's a match component of it, so this would help fund the match component. So that's why we're asking for the 350 to do, Sullivan, Richardson, and then depending on costs, if we can squeeze in some work at Maple Way too, you can see that one's falling apart. We'll look to spend some funds over there too to either patch or start to get that as more of a capital larger project. So
Bill, where does the bike path stand right now? Like what's its status?
23rd. So right now it is off the tip, but it will be put back on the tip for 2030. So
Okay.
What happened was when I split the downtown project up into the 2 projects, we lumped the rail to trail in with it so that we would stay on the 2030.
Okay.
MassDOT has asked us, because of how much the rail to trail has shrunk, to split those back up, and they want to kind of squeeze it in a lot earlier. So we're already at 25% design and past that for the rail to trail. So we'll be looking at making a full submittal for the 25 for the 2 large projects. And then what will happen is MassDOT will pull out the rail to trail as a much smaller project. So it'll just be the boardwalk section from Salem to Foster's Lane. That's where we will stop for our rail to trail. And and that'll be probably I'm thinking it's probably under $5 million or so. I'm trying to also keep in with it the remaining parking lot that's already at Water Street and include that as part of the rail to trail project. And then amenities, we have a couple of amenity zones that we wanted to add, and fencing and stuff. So all that I'm hoping to keep within the TIP as a standalone little small for TIP. $5 million is small, as you know. So that's a kind of an easy squeeze right in type project. So we'll be moving into environmental permitting for that. Actually, when we did the contract, my staff's going to handle that aspect of it. So we'll be moving forward with that and fast tracking that, hopefully for 2030, maybe even earlier, hopefully.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said the project
One
got
point too. Go
I
ahead.
was
Elena.
going to ask what Bill meant by the project got smaller. I was just curious.
Oh, because we built part of it. So
Okay.
the section that got built, that was originally one large 10 to 15 million
Oh,
dollar
okay.
project, right? So now we're shrinking it down, just doing the northern part, right? And then some of the stuff downtown here, we want to do the parking lot and then like those amenities things I was talking about. So
Okay. All right. Thanks.
yeah.
Bill, just because you brought up, it reminded me too. Speaking of the rail trail, and in
Mhm.
general too, I don't know what we can do or what we could do as a town, but I live across the street from the rail trail, so
You
there's a couple
do.
times I'll shoot across the street with my dog and take
Yeah.
a walk down there or just walk myself.
Yeah.
In for lack of better words, it's pretty disgusting how
Yes.
people have treated that area. There's
Yeah.
trash everywhere.
Mhm.
People are just allowing their dogs to go to the bathroom. I mean, they're not even picking it up. The whole place
Yeah.
is trash. And luckily, I think it was the high schoolers of the Galvin. They have the cleanup crew
Yeah.
that came by, and they obviously do a wonderful job. But I mean, I saw them load 15 or 20 bags stuffed with
Yeah.
trash. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And it's
So
going
what?
everywhere. It blows all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of folks actually driving down the trail and dumping because it has to stay drivable for National Grid and EverSource. So
Yeah.
I had to work with them pretty significantly to get those trailheads designed. But we have the removable bollard that we put at Fitch Court. My game plan is actually to put those at the beginning and end of the trail because it's officially not open yet, right? Because we have
Right.
some tree work to do. We're going to put those pieces in there as well. And then our game plan is to have trash barrels and all that stuff and put that as part of the plan. So,
So that might help then. Okay.
we're thinking like probably springtime, Joe, right? For Dennis to get out there to do the tree pieces. And then we're going to open everything up and we'll put those bollards in and get this thing moving. So
Yeah,
it's, hopefully it'll be open for folks and they'll start picking it up.
yeah, because
The,
I
the
know you
other
can't
part to
control
that,
people, but
Mm.
it's bad.
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
other part to that, Chris, too, is so, during the day when we're operating and we're in and out and, taking a ride through, obviously everything's great. It's the second you turn your back when whatever is going on.
Yep.
So we've been trying to figure out a way, locate, how close our network is to that, because from our own interest at DPW, but then also for public safety, getting some eyes in the sky there. Just, God forbid, if something happens, to get a quick look before, you're sending people and resources in there, or if there was an issue or things like that. So we've been vetting that out, at this point and seeing, is it a simple fix that we could do in-house, with some of our own capabilities? Do we have something a little bit more robust that needs to happen? But that would be the end goal too, is to supplement, some of the physical presence with that too. For a host of different reasons, not just to nab somebody doing something that they're not supposed to. But
Yeah, and I know it's a battle everywhere with people, littering. It
Yeah.
drives me insane when when I see
Yeah,
trash out like that.
our issue is just that you can't really, we have to
You
keep
can't.
yeah, we didn't put the bollards in because they had asked us not to originally, and I mean
Yeah,
it's just got to the problem where it's too much of a problem. So
right.
we'll install those guys, get that fixed, and that'll stop. I think they'll start to curb some of it, for
Right.
sure, and then we'll go from there. So, but we'll add them to all the different spots. So across from you, we'll be adding them. We'll add them down at Salem Street, and we'll add them at Water Street as well. So hopefully we can get folks to stop doing that.
Yeah, at least deter them, It's just
Yeah.
it's a shame when you see that all the hard work everyone did there, and you try to make it right, make it a nice area for people, and like anything else, fields everywhere in town, people trash it no matter what you do, and you can't control them to what they're doing, but we
Right.
gotta maybe get creative of how we prevent them.
Yep. You know it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on parking lots, folks?
Just one
No?
last question. When is that portion of the rail trail that's almost done? When is that opening up, do you think?
Well, we have to do the work that Joe and I were talking about. So I think I'm assuming like late spring is what I would hope for.
Wow.
Maybe summer. Yeah, we were supposed to try to get it for fall, but we just ran into some issues with other projects and some stuff that we couldn't get to it. But we have some significant tree work that we have to do because now that it got cleared, all the trees that used to be next to themselves aren't really, holding up. So there's some trees that definitely need to be taken down, trimmed, limbed, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, that's a great amenity. I think it's exciting that it's that close.
Yeah, you'll see some stuff happening actually. in the spring, right off the bat, we're going to be putting some fencing in to separate right by Water Street, the parking lots that are there. So that's something that we're moving forward with right now with some additional funds that we have left over from the trailheads. So that'll start to beautify the area a little bit too. So hopefully between we get all this stuff going, it'll deter everybody and we can get this open and using it.
Awesome.
And maybe somebody will stop hitting the PED signal at Water Street. That would be great. That would be outstanding. We put it up twice. It's been knocked down twice. So.
They gotta reteach that wide right turn when you.
I know you have so much room there. There's no need for you to be hitting that. I mean, I can understand if it's tight. Understand that you have so much room. There's no need for that. So
yeah, you improved it. If anything, you improved.
Oh, I know. We widened it out even and made it easier to drive. So I don't know. So drainage easements, so we kind of seem to have these every year now. So as part of the development that was done at was it Willow Tree? Is that the name of the nursery place that was there on Salem Street?
Yep.
Willow Tree, yeah. So as part of the Willow Tree development, there was a drainage project that was identified. So there was a need for an overflow from that. They were able to make their drainage work on paper. But essentially, they would have an overflow into the neighbor. So if you're looking at the pink here on the screen to the left, the house that you can see on the left, right there, yep. And historically, there has been a lot of flooding from the Galini property coming across into the Eunice Circle, which are the folks that you see kind of on the bottom there. So bottom of the easements, that whole area. Water just kind of sheets across all of those backyards. So as part of that, we requested to have a drainage improvement project happen where we got some funding to make that happen, about $50,000 as a payment for portions of this. Portions would be constructed by the developer. And then what we're doing is working through easements with the person that would be taking all the water. Obviously, they're supportive of getting this piped into the ground and into the system in Eunice Circle. And then with Galini to kind of pick up the water before it gets overflowing through that area. So we're working through all those easements right now with them. We've had dialogues. Most folks are good with making all this happen. So we'll be moving forward with, the ability for us to negotiate with the 4 properties to move forward with a project that would kind of mitigate the current flooding and mitigate the development project with the developer. So. Kind of a good story with working with everybody. Back in the day, it's kind of interesting. Where that manhole that's shown in the yellow, there's actually a 24-inch pipe there. So this whole thing used to be a big wetland. So the flooding is all because they filled it all the wetland in, eliminated the outlet that used to send all the water across. So this kind of recreates and reestablishes that kind of drainage connection from before. So something that, as we're doing our peer reviews for the projects and the developments in town, we're obviously looking to solve drainage problems, and this is kind of a good example of, why we do the reviews. All right, now we get to jump into stormwater bylaw update. And this is exciting, folks. This is good stuff. So we got 3 drainage three articles that we're going to be bringing to town meeting for this. A stormwater bylaw update. So essentially, I'm rewriting the bylaw, and I'll explain why. We're establishing a drainage revolving fund for payments and mitigation payments, so that would be able to go into an account for us to then supplement and do other projects throughout the town. And then we're also making some zoning bylaw modifications just to dovetail with the work that we're doing to make sure that the standards, the performance standards we're establishing will go across all different stormwater reviews for the different planning board and ZBA projects that go through. So Joe, if you want to hop to the next one. So quick background as to why we're doing this. Updates to the NIPD's MS4 permit. So EPA has a permit that we have to file for as the town to allow us to discharge to waters of the United States. So that includes all of our lakes, rivers, wetlands in the town of Wakefield. So there were updates that were made in 2020. It started actually in 2018. They got appealed through a water coalition that Wakefield is a part of. I think Melrose is as well. And as part of that, there were some changes that kind of reduced some of the requirements, but there were a couple of things that we needed to update. But as part of this, the whole idea of the program is to have us reduce pollutant discharges to the waters to the maximum extent practicable. And then they tell us what is practicable and what is not, which isn't really how you do maximum extent practicable, but here we are. So 6 minimum control measures, public education, we do that. I'm sure you've seen the flyers that we send out to folks. Public involvement, so we have a website where people can provide comments. We also do stuff where we have the rain barrel program that Ann does. We have cleanup projects and stuff that we do with the folks that Chris was just talking about, all that type of stuff. We have illicit discharge detection and elimination, so that's us going out and testing runoff and outfalls and evaluating all of our outfalls, testing wet weather and dry weather flow and doing all of those to determine if there's any connections that's not stormwater to our system, and then removing those connections. And then we have 4 and 5, which is the bylaw. Construction runoff control for erosion. We're not making a lot of changes there because we kind of do that pretty well. But our post-construction management piece had some changes that were needed. And then good housekeeping is just what Public Works does. So that's our catch basin cleaning stuff, our stuff that we do at our facilities to do our, making sure that our discharges are clean. That's leaving all of our Public Works sites. I'm going to bump to the next one, Joe. So the bylaw updates that were required, so EPA reached out to us and told us, hey, you guys haven't met a couple of these things. They were supposed to be done through the DEP, through their changes with their stormwater standards, but unfortunately, they've kind of dragged their feet on those. So EPA is hitting up a bunch of communities to tell us to make these modifications. Elena, if you haven't heard that, you're going to probably get it coming soon. And I know a couple of other towns that are in the kind of doing the same thing with us now. So basically, requiring low impact development, planning and design strategies. So bioretention areas and rain gardens, kind of like what you see here on the slide. Porous pavers, we've done those. Not necessarily here yet, but we will be doing those. Tree box filters, something that we're looking to do in a few sections. We also have to look at how we manage the pollutants within new and redevelopment. So they're upping the required for TSS removal to 90%, and then requiring 60% of total phosphorus being removed. So the way we've actually managed it here in Wakefield historically, so my predecessor set it up so that there was a no net volume increase for all new and redevelopments. So that actually has these being met regardless, just through the process. So you infiltrate to remove the phosphorus. That's how you do it. We are already requiring that. So we're meeting that part anyway. We always have been. It's just that we have to kind of do it more of a, we have to have it, spelled out specifically in the bylaw. So that's the updates that we're making. The other changes on the redevelopment, so it eliminates the maximum extent practicable standard and makes it 80% TSS removal required for any redevelopment. So that's a little bit of a different step. And then 50% of the phosphorus removal. So for the whole entire site. So that is some stuff that, honestly, for all of the projects that we've had, even our Cabot and Forbes project, we met all of these anyway. But in general, there's certain projects that, could come up in the future that wouldn't necessarily be able to do that. And I'll talk about what we're doing to address that situation. If you want to bump to the next one, Joe, thanks. So I already talked about the stormwater standards updates. So they had what they call the proposed wetland resilience draft regulations that were going on. I actually sat on the committee for that as one of the MMA reps for the technical side, and we provided a ton of comments on it. And really, we're trying to have them dovetail this with the EPA requirements. And essentially, we've kind of heard radio silence over the past few years on it. They had a public information session that came out of it, but I was on the committee back in 2022 or 2021, 2022, somewhere in that time frame. They had these public meetings in 24, which kind of just regurgitated the same stuff we were talking about. And then we haven't heard anything since. So moving on. So we took the opportunity with having to make the changes to do a bunch of housekeeping edits and administrative changes because honestly, our bylaw, the way it's written currently, is very, very clunky and kind of redundant. So what we did is consolidated our permit process. So we had a separate stormwater management permit and land disturbance permit. They had the same jurisdiction, so same thresholds that would trigger it. So you just had to apply twice with two separate permits when they would come into my office with two separate filing fees of $2,000. Kind of redundant and kind of a waste of time in my mind. So we decided to consolidate that. We added an administrative permit process as well for small projects, and we kind of clarified the jurisdiction. So right now, Wakefield has a jurisdiction of 15,000 square feet of land disturbance and above, requires a permit. And the way it's written currently is that you don't have to apply for a permit. You're exempted from the permit if you go through and receive a permit from another board. Doesn't require you to actually meet any of the requirements, the performance standards, which is not how you want to do that. So we've administered it where we require them to meet the performance standards through the ZBA, Planning Board, and Concom, but this will codify that. We also identified for projects that are below 15,000 square feet of land disturbance, but the building inspector requires us to review it through the building code. He can require drainage review. If a site's being raised and changing drainage patterns and causing problems, we get probably one or two of those a year, maybe three. So we wanted to kind of define a process for that as to what we would expect folks to do. So it's basically an administrative approval process that would come through my office and have folks really just meet a, kind of look at the impervious area that they're adding on these small projects rather than mitigating the whole entire site. We also was at the town council on Monday where they asked us to kind of change how this is done. So historically, folks, you've been as you know, have been the adjudicatory board for this. They have asked to be the board themselves. And so now you folks will be the advisory. So I was trying to streamline, we'll now have 2 steps as opposed to the 1. So I'm still back to 2 steps, but unfortunately, I don't have enough time to really change that. So all of our articles are due tomorrow. So since Monday, I've been able to kind of repurpose our process and get this to kind of be set up. So applications will come into us. The town council will have about 60 days to set their hearing. In that time, you'll have 21 days to set a meeting. We'll go through you first, folks. You'll give a recommendation to the town council, and the town council will set their hearing within that 60-day period. If there's a need for us to have a second meeting with you folks for whatever reason, we'll have that time to be able to be built in. So that's how that's going to work. One of the other jurisdiction things I changed, we have a 6,000 square feet of land disturbance on a 3-to-1 slope. We were never able to really use this because it doesn't say whether it's proposed or existing, so that's a problem. So if somebody was proposing it, they would say we don't have to do it because it's existing only. And then if it was an existing situation, they say, well, we flatten it out so we don't have to do it. So we ran into that problem on like 3 or 4 projects, and really there was no way for me to administer it. So we're just going to nix that all completely and just cover that through the building inspector administrative review process. We also clarified performance standards for the erosion control standards and stormwater management standards that have to be met through all different boards and committees. So ZBA, Planning Board, Concom, they'll all have to meet the same set of standards. Currently, we have a whole host of different things that it says. Some of them says has to be to the satisfaction of me. Some say satisfaction of Joe. Some say you can't send water to anybody else onto another property, even though it currently goes there. So all those don't really jive. So we just want to make it all point to the same thing, have the same set of standards across the board. And then creation of the new drainage revolving fund. So projects that can't meet it on their site. So it's just physically impossible for whatever reason that may be. They still have to meet it. So this will give us the opportunity to take a payment and also either allow them to do it off-site somewhere on a piece of property that they're able to get an easement on and maintain, or for us to do it through projects that we've identified, and then we would do that project in-house and do the retrofit, drainage improvement, whatever that may be. Next slide, Joe. Performance highlights for erosion and sediment control. So you guys have all seen this stuff, I'm sure. Erosion control matting, different pieces, minimized area disturbance, all those types of things that we require now. vehicles, tracking of sediments, prevent that, tire wash stuff, stabilize stuff within 14 days, all the stuff that we require to happen now. This is something that we would have required, and just clarify it so it's very, very clear as to what you have to do. Next slide, Joe. So stormwater management standards, basically meeting the stormwater standards that the DEP has, which we already require, including the new ones that they're looking to do whenever they get those done. Control peak and rate peak rate and volume of runoff, which we already require. Maintain natural drainage patterns, we require that. And then, the TSS and phosphorus removal stuff I talked about earlier, the LID site in the site planning as a requirement will be added into. And then lastly, so zoning bylaw and planning coordination. So I will be moving a separate article that will focus on just the zoning bylaws and just dovetailing them with this. Essentially, I'm keeping the language the same. I'm just having them add a comment that has to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw as a sentence at the end of all these sections. But our parking and loading requirements, those 3 sections, they all say different things. Special permit and site plan review has 2 sections that say different things, and they all just conflict with themselves. And then the last one is our open space development, which didn't really talk about the stormwater bylaw, so we're adding that section in it. And then I'm asking the planning board to also update their subdivision rules and regs after this is approved to dovetail as well. And I think that's about all I have. That's my bylaw. So happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I think we're getting support from the planning board so far. I've heard good stuff from them. Town council, I've been there twice. First time they were very complimentary. Second time they had the tweak, so we made the tweak. I was there planning board and ZBA this week. Both of those folks were pretty supportive and happy to support. I think I'll be in front of the planning board for their recommendations in early April. So with it being zoning bylaw, they have to provide a recommendation, but they're also going to provide a recommendation on the bylaw, even though it's a general bylaw. So that's good news for me. And that's about it.
And that is the end of the tour.
Yeah, $3 tour. Yeah.
Would you guys be looking for a vote on this tonight too?
If you're comfortable, I think.
If you're so inclined to align with the recommendation we're showing you, that'd be fantastic.
I mean, any discussion too. I'm not sure if any of the Shane or Elena, if you have any comments on anything, or I don't know if do you have to do each one of these separate, or can we do it as one? Or
no, I mean you could probably do it as presented. So what'll end up happening is, so these are what's being proposed from Public Works to be included on the warrant and then put up for discussion for the town. So it might all go, some of it might get pulled, different things, who knows? But these are some of the things that, kind of highlights and the higher end of the triage down of the infinite amount of things you could be doing. And, this is what we'd like to advance the conversation on at this point.
I'd be happy to make a motion for our committee to recommend passage of everything that you presented.
And I would gladly second that.
okay, and all in favor? Aye.
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 Carries 3-0. Yeah, I'm comfortable as well.
So we'll get a letter together for your signature. Just
Okay.
recommending the articles, obviously, like we usually do.
Great. Okay. What's next? Anything else from you guys on your end? Joe, Bill, Ann?
We talked about the trash thing, so just stay on the lookout for that. Before we know it, in the next couple weeks, we'll be starting to think about water rates, so that'll be coming too. That's really it. Waiting for the 70-degree weather to become more consistent, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes.
Throwing curveballs. That's
Oh
for sure.
man, bring it on. I'll take it.
Is it snowing outside right now?
I swear I felt sleet earlier, but
It
I'm
was
not even going to
snowing.
say it.
It was snowing when I came home right before coming here. I mean, there were just little flakes blowing around, but it was there.
Here we go.
I don't have it in me to look right now.
And I will say too,
I just don't want more freezing and more breaks of water mains
No,
I
I
will-
know.
on our roads.
Keep the temperature consistent. If it's going to be
Right.
cold, be cold. If it's going to be
Right.
warm, be warm.
You
Get
guys did
warm. Call it a day.
you guys did an excellent job with the snow removal on those snowstorms. That's a major snowstorm. You can have all the
True.
equipment in the world. You have to have the right people, working, communicating. I'm sure subcontractors working for you, all working hard. I saw all the trucks out. You guys did a fantastic job.
Believe it or not, it was this year boiled down for us. So we've been tracking it pretty detailed, but like how many events were out, how much snow we measure at North Ave, where it's kind of like the brain of the snow operation when it's going on. This year ended up being the second busiest we've been since 2000. We went out 30 times. It's deceiving, right? Because all that, wet weather that came in December, that it didn't really amount to a heck of a lot, but it still made things icy. We're still out there doing our thing. And then, in front of our building, we measured 73 inches of snow throughout the total year, which ended up cracking the top 10 since 2000. So, we had a year where, we were the second most busiest and, top 10 for snow. So it was interesting. The staff, a lot of them haven't seen more than 7 or 8 inches of snow. So, it was a good
I've
test
only seen four.
for
Right?
everybody, and I know Elena will agree. My condolences and sympathies with our brethren and sisters down on the south side of the state that got really walloped
Oh,
with
yeah.
snow. But
Yeah,
if
I can
that does
imagine.
not want to come up here, you will never hear me complain about that for sure.
It was
And I assume the
the ice
busiest,
was tricky.
yeah.
The ice
Oh,
was tricky.
ice
I
is
assume the busiest year that you're comparing to was 2015.
Actually, no. I think it
Really?
was
I'm shocked.
2003.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
2015 was
that was a good
was
year.
was odd because we didn't go out and do anything till really the
Gee,
day after Christmas. And then the month
yeah,
of February we just got 5 feet of snow and everybody
right.
lived here. But
And then we got the big giant rainstorm like in March that wiped out like everything, right? I don't know
uh,
if you got it up here. Were we still in Concord back then, Elena? Were you still
No, I
there?
was gone
No,
by
you were
then.
gone. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we washed out like three roads. It was a disaster. Oh, it was bad. Like, just all that snow and then the giant rainstorm and all
Yeah.
that water. Oh my God, it was brutal.
yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
So
the both of those.
gladly trade the pushed in driveways and sight distance complaints for anything else that happens in the spring now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
What else? What are you looking at for meeting dates? Is there a certain date we need to meet before?
I don't think we have any pressing business. Um, we are at the town council and finance committee the week after next. And then obviously town meeting is the 4th or 5th of May. Um, so we have that going on, but at the beginning of April, I think you're probably fine with. Do we want to lock that in now, or we can shoot some dates out after the fact and see if we can come to consensus that way, whatever the board's prerogative is.
Yeah, whatever you guys want. Maybe is there any dates in April that don't work? What do we got for holidays? When's Easter? Can't even believe it.
Yeah, Easter's soon. It's the
Yeah, the
5th.
April
I
5th.
can't believe
April
that.
5th is Easter, and then
Is
we
it
have
really?
school vacation week.
Is what, the 6th?
No,
No,
no. It's usually should be the 20th, I think. Is that right?
correct. The
Yeah.
20th that week, yes.
Okay, so let's stay away from that. Everyone has kids and that they'd like to enjoy some time with, I'm sure. Um,
I don't know, I might want to come back to work.
your family's growing by the day, Joe,
It's all good.
right? Yeah, it's up to you guys. I don't know, whatever you guys want. Is like, does a Thursday work again for you guys or a Monday or?
Yeah, I mean, the capital planning committee was Monday, Tuesdays, and that's finished. So I can do Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday night.
Okay.
So whatever,
I've got a
whatever
commitment on
works with the
Monday
group.
nights at 7 that I have to leave like 10 minutes to 7. But um but otherwise like Monday nights are fine for me as long as we went back to an earlier time. Maybe like a 5:30. And then Thursdays are good for me at 6:15 or 6:30.
Yeah, why don't we do like a Thursday 6:30, give everyone a second to, get together.
Sounds
I,
good.
I don't know, there's like April 9th, there's the 16th and the 30th. And like I said, I'd like to stay away from vacation week for you guys so you guys can enjoy
Yeah.
your time with your kids. I have a kid now too now. I can't just say
I
your
know.
kids.
How's that
I have
going?
Yeah.
I had an adult that just joined my house. So my daughter turned
Aha!
18 like a month ago. No, not even a month ago, like 3 weeks ago.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
going
Ah,
good, Elena. It's going good. She's we're home, so that's good. Everything,
Yeah.
health-wise, everyone's okay. So we're just
Good. Oh, you had a
adapting.
baby? Did I not know that? I didn't know this. I didn't know you had
Yes,
a
yes.
baby.
She was
Oh,
actually
congratulations.
Adriana. She's actually 1 month today.
Is that your first?
Yes, yes, it's
Oh,
one month.
congrats. Good luck
Yeah,
with the sleep.
yeah, yeah. Mm, we're still
And
working
the
on that.
and the teenage years too. Those are going to be even better. I'm
Yeah,
waiting
yeah.
for her. I am so ready for her to leave. It's going to be great. Go to college. Enjoy.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, she's the best. This is going to be on YouTube, right? She is the best kid, the absolute best. We
So
love
this is
her
a
so
public
much.
meeting, Bill.
This is a public meeting. Yes, yes, this is. Yeah. She is the best.
That blackmail will live forever in the digital age.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
the 16th looks like it's good for me. That's the week before vacation, right?
yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do like the 16th at 6:30, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, because
yeah.
the 9th, there's something in my calendar that honestly I don't even know what it means, but there's something there. So
You'll figure it out later,
That's
I'm
funny,
sure.
Elena. I have the same thing. It looks like something at the high school, but I don't know what that is either. It's probably the same meeting.
yeah, mine says I-95 meeting, and then
Oh,
it has a
Oh,
link for
oh,
mass.gov.
yeah. Aren't they talking about the widening that day, maybe? The
That
widening
might
of
be
Maybe, but how
the
did it end
public
up in my
forum link
calendar?
for it. Were you listed on the email that got sent out by the district, maybe?
Maybe, but it's in my personal calendar, like it's in my personal
right.
email address calendar, and
Which
it
day is it?
says
Which day is
Reading
that?
Stoneham Wakefield improvements.
What day do you have that for?
April 9th.
The
The
9th at
ninth.
6:30 p.m.
Oh,
Yeah, like someone stuck it in my family calendar. So I don't know.
well, there you go.
So,
Maybe it's
so the
interesting.
16th we're looking at the
Yeah.
16th looks fine to me.
Okay.
And
All
you
right,
said 6:30, right?
yeah. Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that.
All right. April 16th, 6:30. I'll put it in my family calendar as well.
And if no one else has anything else, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Great
everyone.
Thank
seeing you all,
you.
Have a
folks.
great
Great
night.
seeing
Bye.
you all.
Have a
Night.
good
Thank you
weekend.
all.
Yeah,